Today is Wednesday, January 13th. Let's go over your memory scripture. John 14:6. It says, Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. John 14:6. Again, Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Hebrews have left Mount Sinai and they continued their journey to the promised land. But not long after they left Mount Sinai, they began to complain, and they just started to complain about different things. And the Lord was displeased with their complaining, and so he sent fire throughout the camp of the Hebrews to teach them a lesson on complaining. He wanted them to stop complaining. They needed to learn how to pray and to be grateful and to stop the complaining. And so the Lord sent fire, and some of the people died from the fire. And so when they saw this, they went to Moses and they begged Moses to ask the Lord to stop the fires, which Moses prayed and the Lord stopped the fires. But not long after that, they began to complain again. So they are not learning their lesson on complaining, and God is seeing all of this. And so this time they were complaining about meat. They were tired of the manna and they wanted meat. And Moses, he had enough. And so he went before the Lord. But this time it wasn't about prayer. He went to the Lord because he was fed up. He was like, Lord, I can't lead these people anymore. I'm tired of them. All they do is complain. All they do is act like children. Moses said, Lord, just let me die. I can't do this anymore. But God told Moses he would help Moses out with that. And so he told Moses to select 70 men who would help him with the people. And so if the people had issues, instead of going to Moses, they would go to whoever their leader was. And if the problem was big enough, they would bring it to Moses. So this would lighten Moses' load a little bit. He wouldn't have to hear all the complaints of all those people all the time. And so the Lord also told Moses that he would answer the people's complaint about wanting meat. And so God said, I'll send quail. I'll send so much quail. I'll send quail for about a month. And the people eat this quail for a month, and some of them will actually get sick and die from eating all of this quail because they want quail so bad. So the Lord sent quail. The people were so excited that they finally had quail. And sure enough, they were excited at first, but then they kept eating, and some of them fell sick and they died because they ate too much meat. They ate too much quail. And so the people realized that this was the Lord's punishment again. And although the Lord is sending the fire and some of them got sick from eating the quail, God is still with the people. He just is showing them that that complaining is not right. He's trying to teach them a lesson. So the people just have to get it. So after we talked about the quail and the complaining, the fire from heaven, the people began their journey again, and this time they finally arrived at the border of the promised land, meaning they were right outside the promised land. The Lord had told them that when they would get to the land, they had to just go inside the land and possess it, meaning to take it, because it was theirs. God had promised to give this land to Abraham. It was theirs. And so the Lord told them he would give them victory over every nation. Remember, there are other people who lived in the land at this time. So you have like the Canaanites, the Amalekites, you have all the different people who live inside of the promised land. And so, but the Lord told them, he said, I will give you victory over them. When it's time to go and possess the land, you go and you will defeat every single nation, because that land belongs to you. So God had already given them the word that it was theirs. They just had to trust God, and they just had to go in and take the land. But when they arrived at the border of the promised land, the people decided that they weren't ready to go into the land just yet. They were afraid. They were like, Moses, we're not ready to go. We need to see what's going on in the land first before we try to go in and take the land. And so Moses prayed about it. And so the Lord told Moses he could send 12 spies inside of the land. So he picked one man from each of the 12 tribes. And these 12 men would go and spy out the entire land. They would see what kind of people were there. Were they strong people? Were they weak people? They would see what kind of fruit grew in the land. Was the land fruitful? They were going to go and scope out the entire land to see what it was like. So the 12 spies went, and included in the 12 spies were Joshua, remember, he was the one who defeated who led the army to defeat the Amalekites. He also was the one who went halfway in the mountain with Moses, and someone named Caleb, who was from the tribe of Judah. And then they had the 10 other spies. So the spies went, and they went throughout the land. So they were actually gone for 40 days spying out the land, because first of all, that's how big the land was, and that's also how much was inside of the land. So the people were concerned that the spies hadn't come back right away. And so they were like, maybe something happened to them. But after those 40 days were up, the 12 spies returned. And when they came back, they had fruit from the land. So they were carrying like this huge vine branch. They had pomegranates. They had all kinds of different fruit, which showed the people that the land was very fruitful, that there was a variety of fruits growing in the land. And if you remember, the people always complained about how they wanted this and wanted that, and how in Egypt they had all the melons and everything. So this is a good thing for them. And this promised land that God was giving them, all kinds of things were growing in the land. So that already should have let them know you'll have all the food you'll need. You have no reason to complain once you go inside of the promised land. And so the 12 spies came back carrying all of the fruit of the land, and the people were like, wow, look at all of this. This is amazing. And so they were letting them know that the land was fruitful, that God was blessing them with a land flowing with milk and honey, which means it was an abundant land, a blessed land, that it wasn't a dead land where nothing was growing there, but it was blessed. And so the people were like, wow, look at all of this food. They were excited. They were like, man, this is our land. This is the land that God promised to give us. Caleb and Joshua began to encourage the people, and they told them, they said, this is all that the Lord is giving us inside of our land. Caleb was like, let's go and take possession of our land now. This is our land. God is with us. God is giving us the victory. Let's go into the land. But right after Caleb and Joshua said this, the other 10 spies began to put doubt inside of the people. They said, no, we can't go and take the land. They were like, the people there are too strong for us. They were like, we have the Canaanites who are strong. We have cities that have walls. We can't beat any cities that have walls around their city. They were like, and the people of Anak are there, which were the giants. These people were like 9 feet, 10 feet tall. They were like, there's no way we can defeat these people. So when the people heard that, they heard the 10 spies speak all about how the people were strong there, the people immediately got afraid, and they were like, oh no, we can't go inside the land. They were like, we can't defeat those people. And then the children of Anak, the giants, they were like, there is no way. We'll be like grasshoppers on the side of them. There is no way we can defeat these people. So the people, they were excited about the fruit in the land. Caleb and Joshua tried to encourage the people to go and take their land. But as soon as they heard about the people that lived in the land and how some of the people were strong people, they immediately turned to fear, and they immediately were like, no, we're not going inside of the land. Now, God had already told the people that he was going to give them the victory, right? God had already told them that the land was theirs and God was with them. Why would they not trust the Lord? God had already given them victory over the Amalekites. If you remember, when the Amalekites defeated them, the Israelites had never fought anyone before, and God had given them the victory. So sure enough, God would give them the victory over all of these nations. He did it before. God also defeated the Egyptians for the Hebrews. But instead of remembering what God had done and trusting the Lord, they decided to turn away and say, no, we can't go inside the land. And Caleb and Joshua tried to encourage the people. They were like, guys, don't give up. They were like, we can do it. The Lord is with us. He has shown us that he is with us. Let's not give up. Moses also tried to encourage the people. They pleaded with the people. They were like, guys, let's go. Let's go inside of our land. But the people were like, no. And the people even got so mad at Moses, Caleb, and Joshua and Aaron for trying to encourage them that they were ready to stone them because they were trying to encourage them to go inside of the land. So the people are just really foolish right now, and we see that they have not learned how to trust their God. Instead, they're choosing to complain, they're choosing to remain in fear, and they're disobedient because God told them to go and possess the land, and they're choosing not to. So they are in disobedience right now as well. And so the people are just really foolish right now by not obeying the Lord and not going in and taking their land. The Lord was angry with the people and their refusal to go into the promised land. So the Lord said to Moses, how long will this people reject me? And how long will they not believe me? After all that I've done for them, I've shown them, the people still refuse to trust in me. And so the Lord said, I will strike them with a sickness, and I will take my blessing from them. And Moses prayed and said, Lord, no, don't do it. He says, Lord, if the Egyptians and everybody hear what you've done to your people, they won't trust you. They'll say their God did this to them so that he could destroy them. And so Moses prayed and asked the Lord to please have mercy on the people and not to destroy them. And so because of Moses' prayer, the Lord was merciful to the people. And he says, I will forgive them. But the Lord said, but they will not get into the promised land. He says, anyone who is 20 years and older will not enter into the promised land. They will remain in the wilderness until they all die. And anyone who is younger than 20, they will get the promised land. And so this meant that the Hebrews would have to stay in the wilderness for 40 years before they could go into the promised land. And so pretty much everyone who was an adult at this time, because they refused to go into the promised land, there was no second chance for them. It was over. The Lord said anyone who is 20 and older will not be able to go into the promised land. It is done. They can try. They can ask me if they can go. The answer will be no. And so the Lord said, I will give the promise to their children. Anyone who is 20 and younger, he says that's who will be able to, well, younger than 20, that's who will be able to go into the promised land. So they lost their blessing. God took them out of Egypt to bring them to the promised land. They get there and refuse to go, and now they missed out on their blessing. They would have their own land that was theirs, and they missed the blessing because of their disobedience, their lack of faith in God. And they also tried to stone Moses as well because of this. And so their children, though, would be able to receive the blessing, but not them. And so Moses went and he told the people what the Lord said. He told them how they would have to remain in the wilderness for 40 years. And when they heard this, they were like, no. They were like, no, Moses, we don't want to stay in the wilderness for 40 years. Remember, they complained all the time while they were in the wilderness. But Moses says, no, the Lord has said it and it is settled. You will remain in this wilderness for 40 years. You lost your chance. You cannot get the land anymore. It will now be passed on to your children. All of you will die in this wilderness before we can move, before us as a people can move into the promised land. And so the people were like, no. They were like, no, Moses. And so they tried. So they said, Moses, please ask the Lord to forgive us, to be merciful. And Moses said, no, this is what the Lord says. So they missed their blessing. And now they want it, but it's too late. And although it was too late, they still were going to try to go into the land. So they were like, Moses, when we get up tomorrow, we are going to go and we're going to go fight for our land. We're going to go defeat the Amalekites and the Canaanites. They said, we're going to go to war with them so we can get our land. And so Moses said, you can do that. He says, but God already said that you're going to stay in the wilderness 40 years and that the land is not yours. So Moses said, if you go to battle, you will not succeed. You will be defeated. But they didn't listen. They went to battle. And guess what happened? They lost the battle. But that was because the Lord was not with them. They had missed their blessing. The Lord had already said it was done. They were not getting the promised land no matter how hard they would try. And so they went back to the camp and they were defeated and they were sad because they realized, we messed up. Realized after the fact that they should have trusted the Lord and they should have obeyed the Lord when he told them to go into the promised land. But it's too late now. So no matter what they do, it won't work. They have to stay in the wilderness. So we can learn from this lesson faith, that we have to trust the Lord. Even when it looks like it might be impossible for us to do something, we still have to trust God, especially if he said that he would give us the victory. And also we have to obey the Lord as well. We want to make sure that we obey the commands that God gives us. Even if it's hard to obey it, we still have to do it because God, when he gives us commands, it's for our good. And so we have to obey him. And the Hebrews, unfortunately, they messed up. And then on top of that, remember, they were complaining all the time. They always had a problem. So I think it was just all of that and then they just didn't want to go into the promised land, and they missed out on their blessing. So don't miss your blessings. Make sure you obey the Lord, and you have faith and you trust God in everything that he tells you to do. So that's our Bible lesson on today. That completes our lessons for this week.